Hello everyone. Today I'm going to start a new series where I'm going to do the world literature, and today I'm going to start with German literature. One by one I am going to talk about French literature, then African literature. So today our topic is German literature. Let's know about German literature and its important writers. German literature has a rich and diverse tradition that spans centuries and encompassing a wide range of genres, styles, and movements. The history of German literature is marked by influential figures, significant periods, and contribution to world literature. German literature spanning centuries boasts a diverse tapestry of influential works and authors. From the medieval epic, here is the name of the epic, which is Nibelung Genlight. Maybe I pronounce it wrong. So, this medieval epic to the Enlightenment ideals of blessing and emotional intensity of strong and drunk embodied by Goethe, Schiller. So the movement Stram and drunk movement, I think that it also influenced the romanticism in England. So the members of these movements are Goethe and Schiller. And the fairy tale legacy of Brothers Grimm, German literary history is multifaceted. The Romantic era saw the enchanting tales of the Grimms and poignant verse of Henry Chain, while Gustav Freytag explored the realist themes in the 19th century. The 20th century introduced the surrealist narratives of Kafka and post-war reflection of Gunter Grass, both shaping global literature. Contemporary voice like Herta Müller and continues to contribute, making German literature an integral part of the world's cultural and intellectual heritage. So, in this brief para, I try to take the whole of German literature, the whole movements and whole what is there in German literature. So you know about the Stram and Drang movement, that how it influenced our romanticism, our romantic literature, and you know also that romanticism first came in German. So through Goethe's work of the young Werther, right? Then the Brother Grimm, and then the epic theater came. Then the narratives like Kafka and Gunter Grass, their literature, their works also came. So I'm going to talk about the writers one by one, the important writers of German literature. So let's start with Friedrich Nietzsche. Friedrich Nietzsche was a German philosopher, cultural critic of the 19th century, made a profound impact of English literature on English literature, despite his works originally written in German. So he originally wrote in German, but his works influenced in English literature. His writings, including the Spoke Zarathustra. So please note down the name of the important work, The Spoke Zarathustra, then Beyond Good and Evil, then The Birth of Tragedy. Sometimes they gave you these names in option, and you have to match the option or odd one out. So please note down these important works names: Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Beyond Good and Evil, The Birth of Tragedy. Delve into the themes of existentialism. So he is important, he is famous for his themes of existentialism, morality, and the will to power. So his most famous idea is will to power. We are going to talk about this also, this idea. Nietzsche's influence on English literature is evident in the works of various writers, particularly during the late 19th and 20th centuries. His ideas on the Ubermensch or Overman. So his important idea Ubermensch or Overman and the eternal recurrence resonated with authors like George Bernard Shaw and D.H. Lawrence. So D.H. Lawrence and George Bernard Shaw influenced by him. Moreover, Nietzsche's exploration of the individual struggle of self-realization and critique of conventional morality found echoes in the writings of Oscar Wilde and Virginia Woolf also. While not without controversy, Nietzsche's thought-provoking the concepts continue to shape and challenge the philosophy and literary landscape, leaving an enduring mark on English literature. So let's know about Nietzsche. Here is the picture of Nietzsche. Nietzsche was born in 1844 and died in 1900. Was a German classic scholar, philosopher, critic of culture who became one of the most influential of all modern thinkers. His attempts to unmask the motives that underlie traditional Western religion, morality, and philosophy deeply affected the generation of theologians, philosophers, psychologists, poets, novelists, and playwrights. So he influenced the contemporary philosophers, psychologists, poets, and playwrights. He thought through the consequence of the triumph of the Enlightenment secularism expressed in his observation that God is dead. His most famous quote, God is dead, in the way that determined the agenda for many Europe's most celebrated intellectual after his death. Although he was an ardent foe of nationalism, anti-Semitism, and power politics, his name was later invoked by fascists to advance the very things he loathed. So he was a foe or enemy of the nationalism, anti-Semitism, but after his death, his name also uh, taken by them. So his important writings are The Birth of Tragedy. The Birth of Tragedy is a in full Birth of Tragedy from Spirit of Music. Is a work by Friedrich Nietzsche, first published in 1872, and this is the German name. The speculative rather than exegetical work, The Birth of Tragedy examines the origin and development of poetry, especially Greek tragedy. Nietzsche argues that Greek tragedy arose out of the fusion of what he termed Apollonian and Dionysian elements. So he argued that Greek tragedy arose out fusion of the fusion of what he termed as Apollonian and Dionysian elements. The former representing measure and restrained harmony, the latter unbridled passion, that Socratic rationalism and optimism spelled the death of Greek tragedy. The final part of the book is a rhapsody of the rebirth of tragedy. So this book is whole about the tragedy, the birth of tragedy, how it progressed. So it is about the tragedy. The final part of the book is a rhapsody of the rebirth of tragedy from spirit of Richard Wagner musics, greeted by the stony silence. At first, the book became the object of heated controversy for those who mistook it for a conventional work of classical scholarship. It remains a classic in the history of aesthetics. So, the his work name, The Birth of Tragedy, is all about the tragedy. Then his most important work, Spake Zarathustra, also translated as Thus Spoke Zarathustra, treatise by Friedrich Nietzsche, written in 4 parts and published in German between 1883 and 1885, as also sparked Zarathustra. The work is incomplete according to Nietzsche's original plan, but it is first through statement of Nietzsche's mature philosophy and the masterpiece of his career. It received little attention during his lifetime, but after his death, it takes as a considerable work, and in the arts as well as philosophy. So note down the name. Written in the form of prose narrative, thus Spake Zarathustra offers the philosophy of its author through the voice of Zarathustra, based on the Persian prophet Zoroaster, who after years of meditation has come down for a mountain has come down from a mountain to offer his wisdom to the world. And what is the wisdom? What was the wisdom? It is the work which Nietzsche made his famous statement, that God is dead. So here in this work he made the statement, his famous statement, God is dead, in which he presented some of the most influential, well-known, and likewise misunderstood ideas of his philosophy, including those of Ubermensch or Superman. So he said that God is dead, but we have the quality of willpower. So we can, if any normal man or any ordinary man can be a Superman. And how is it possible? Through your willpower. So he emphasized on the willpower. He said that if a person practice on his willpower, the ordinary person can be a Superman, the Uberman. So if we, the ordinary person, practiced on our willpower, we can be a Superman. It's his most important quotation or concept. So then we came to the Goethe, important name, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, an influential German writer, poet, statesman of the late 18th and 19th, early 19th century, stand as a towering figure in the history of literature. His magnum opus work, Faust, you know that Marlowe wrote Dr. Faustus, and he wrote Faust. It is a readaptation of the original work. Is often considered of the one of the greatest work in German literature, but here the ending is different. In Marlowe's Dr. Faust, their Faust was an evil character, and at the end of his life he became good, but for some second. And when he prayed for redemption, he could not get it, right? But here Faust was a good man, and he used the power to do good for the men, for the world men, and therefore he he did not go into the hell, but he went to the heaven. So it is a readaptation of the original text, but there it gives you a positive enforcement. So it is his magnum opus work. Goethe's writing spans various genres, from poetry, novels, essays to scientific treatise. His early Sturm and Drang period, marked by words like the sorrow of young Werther. So he is propagated the work, the movement, Sturm and Drang movement, which influenced the romantic movement, and it which work is famous for the sorrow of young Werther, because in through this work he propagated the movement Strum and drunk movement, and gave away to the more classical phrase exemplified Wilhelm Meister's apprenticeship. So it gave way to a more classical phase exemplified by Wilhelm Meister apprenticeship. Goethe's insight in human nature, the pursuit of knowledge, and the interplay of passion and reason have had a lasting impact on literature and philosophy. As a key figure of Wilhelm's classicism, Goethe's influence extended beyond literature, contributing significantly to German culture, intellectual life. His versatile talents and deep philosophical reflections make him a central figure not only in German literature but also in the broader European literary tradition. So let's know more about Goethe. Goethe was born in 1749 and died in 1832. He was a German poet, playwright, novelist, scientist, statesman, theater director, critic, and amateur artist, considered the greatest German literary figure of modern era. His most famous work, the mm, Sorrows of Young Werther, was a novel by Goethe, published in 1774, and this is the German title. It was the first novel of strong and drunk movement. The novel is the story of a sensitive artist young man who demonstrates the fatal effects of the predilection of absolutes, whether those of love, art, society, or thought. Unable to unable to reconcile his inner poetic fantasies, ideas with demands of the everyday world. Weather is the protagonist. Weather goes to the country is an attempt to restore his well-being. So this work was so much influential that many young person, they committed suicide for this work. After reading this work, they became so much depressed, and they said that yes, we also have to commit suicide. So this is so much influential, you can understand. So whether goes to the country in an attempt to restore his well-being, and he is unable to reconcile his inner poetic fantasies and ideas. So he did not get any positive things in his life. So there he falls in love with Charlotte, or also you can call Lotte, the uncomplicated fiance of a friend, and he fell in love with this girl Charlotte. Whether leaves but later returns, feeling depressed and hopeless no matter where he lives. Torn by unrequited passion and his perception of the emptiness of life, he commits suicide. So this is a novel, this is an influential novel, and here the Whether shows that how life is so much absurd, life is so much there is nothing that we always think that tomorrow is tomorrow, and tomorrow we always think that tomorrow maybe we can get something better, but the thing always goes wrong and always goes worst. So here he want to be an a artist, maybe he cannot express his poetic fantasies, ideas. There is no opportunity for him to uh, do what he want to do, or to reconcile his passion or fantasies. And he felt in love with the girl, but he could not express his love also. And when he returned, he did not find anything for which he can live. So therefore he commits suicide. And when this work published, after reading this work, many young person commit suicide because they also find so much attached, so much they found that this work represent themselves, so they commit suicide. They think they thought that it represent their lives, it represent their sorrows, their pains, their sufferings. So this is an important work and his most famous work, and this is the first novel of strong and drunk movement. After this movement starts. The Sorrow of Young Werther, written by Goethe. So, an exceptionally popular book, The Sorrows of Young Werther, gave expression to what Scottish historian and essayist Thomas Carlyle called the nameless unrest, longing, discontent, which was then agitating every bosom. That this is the work which represent every person's suffering, pain, or which we cannot get in our life, every person's desire, every person's fate. So therefore Carlyle says that the nameless unrest, longing, discontent, which was then agitating every bosoms. Then his next famous work, Faust, two-part dramatic by Jonathan Wolfgang von Goethe. Part 1 was published in 1808 and Part 2 1832. After the author's death, the supreme work of Goethe's later years, Faust is sometimes considered Germany's greatest contribution to world literature. Part 1, out of the magician Faust despair, he's packed with Mephistopheles. So like the original text, here also he was a scholar, and his interaction with Mephistopheles and his love for Gretchen. So here is a new character, Gretchen, his beloved. Part 2 covers Faust's life at court and the wooing and winning of Helen of Troy and his purification and salvation. So here also he woos Helen of Troy and his purification and salvation. So here this work ends with a positive note, because here first want to do good for the world people, and he want to cultivate the seas land, so it can be used as a to grow it can be used as a cultivated land. The seas land he want to use, and he want to do good for the public, and therefore he went to the heaven. And Gretchen was his beloved, and Gretchen also suffered so much in her life, and after her death he also went to the heaven. So this end in a positive note, and though it's a readaptation of first doctor the original text, but it's a different, it has the different end. So now we are going to talk about Bertolt Brecht. Bertolt Brecht, original name Eugene Berthold Friedrich Brecht, was born in 1898 and died in 1956. I hope you know he was famous for the epic theater with Erwin Piscator. He also famous for epic theater. He was a German poet, playwright, and theatrical reformer whose epic theater departed from the conventions of theatrical illusions and developed the drama as a social and ideological forum for leftist causes. So his theatrical reformer. He was a theatrical reformer whose epic theater departed from the conventions. So, epic theater departed from the conventions of theatrical illusion and developed the drama as a social and ideological forum for leftist causes. So, leftist causes. Bertolt Brecht, a German playwright and poet, left an indelible mark on 20th century theatre with his innovative approach to drama and keen social contemporary. Born in 1898, Brecht is best known for his development of epic theatre, a style that aimed to engage audiences intellectually rather than emotionally. His most famous work, the Three Penny Opera, please note down these names. Three Penny Opera, created in collaboration with composer Kurt Weill, exemplifies his satirical and critical approach to societal issues. Brecht plays such as Mother Courage and Her Children, another important work, then the Caucasian Chalk Circle, often explored themes of war, capitalism, justice. The concept of Vermeulen effect or alienation effect, this is a German term, and you have to know the both term. Okay, alienation effect, what is epic theater. In epic theater, they gave you the alienation effect. The audience are alienated with the performance, and it's different than the traditional or conventional drama, which aim to keep the audience aware that they are watching a play. So it gives you the audience the awareness that they are actually watching a play rather than becoming emotionally absorbed, is a hallmark of his is a hallmark of his theatrical philosophy. So Brecht's impact extends beyond the stage. His ideas have influenced not only theater practitioners but also thinkers in literature, philosophy, and social theory, solidifying his legacy as a pivotal figure in the world of drama and intellectual discourse. So I took a picture of the act, the epic theater. So his most famous work, The Mother Courage and Her Children, written in German, and this is the German title, published in 1941, and in England, produced in 1941 and published in 1949. The work, composed of 12 scenes, is a chronicle play of the 30 Years' War and is based on the picaresque novel Simplicism. Okay, so maybe I pronounce it wrong, by Hans Jacob Christoph von then Gilmesians. Okay, please note down this also, because this work based on the picaresque novel, and which this is the title, and it is written by Hans Jacob Christoph. So in 1949, Brecht staged Mother Courage with music by Paul Disio. In East Berlin, Brecht's wife, Helen Weigel, performed the title role. This production led to the formation of Brecht's own theatre company and the influential Berliner ensemble. The plot revolves around a woman. So the plot revolves around a woman who depends on war and her personal survival, and who is nicknamed Mother Courage for her coolness of safeguarding her merchandise under enemy fire, because he was working as a shopper, and he was working between the he was continuing his shop between the war. he was selling the foods and other things. So he is sorry, she is called therefore Mother Courage. So she depends on war. The profession was depended on the war, so depends on war for her personal survival, because she have to survive. And who is nicknamed for, therefore, Mother Courage for her coolness in safeguarding her merchandise under enemy fire. The death of her three children one by one do not interrupt her profiteering. So she becomes so much stone hearted because the death of her three children do not interrupt her profiteering. She continue doing her work. Then the other work, the good person of Sichuan, is another work of Bernard Brecht's most well-known plays, written in 1938 during his exile from Nazi Germany, set in the fictional city of Sichuan. The play explores the theme of morality, capitalism, and the changes faced by those trying to lead a morally upright life in a harsh world. The central character, Sin Senthi, is a kind hearted prostitute who receives a gift from the gods for her hospitality. However, in the order to survive in a society that often exploits goodness, Sinthi is forced to create a tough alter ego, which is Switha, to navigate the complexities of life. So here also his like his others work, here also he tried to rebel against the societal norm, that how we try to be always like try to teach morality, but in capitalism, through when the war is happening, we cannot keep our morality. So here the work is um, rolling around the protagonist, which name is Cynthia. She was a prostitute, but she received a gift from God that she can change her gender, and therefore to survive, she have to change her gender, and she became Suitha in to navigate complexities of life. The play, set in China between World War One and World War Two. The title of Cynthia is a poor but warm-hearted prostitute, because she was willing to shelter three gods. They have favored her with a gift of money. She purchased a tobacco shop, but finds that her kinsfolk and other customers take advantage of her kindness. To save her business, Cynthia adopts an alter ego dressing as a man and acting the role of her tough, pragmatic cousin of Suitha. She is able to exact just payment. She is forced to assume this role so often as that, as Switha, she is accused of murdering Cynthia. In the climatical trial scene, Switha reveals that he and Cynthia are the same person. So she have to take the alter ego. She have to change herself and become a boy, man become a man, because she had to save herself. She was a prostitute, but she saw that people are taking advantage of her, so she have to disguise in a man version. Then the Three Penny Opera is a musical drama, three acts, written by Brecht in collaboration with Kurtwell, produced in German as the title, in 1928, published of the in the following year. The play, adapted by Elizabeth Hauptmann and John Gay's Beggar's Opera. So John Gay's Beggar's Opera also adapt this work, the Three Penny Opera. It is his another work. So That's all. Okay. Sorry, there is explanation. So Mackie, or anti-hero gangster Macbeth, marries Polly Peachum. So anti-hero gangster Macbeth, or Mackie, marries Polly Peachum, daughter of a leader of a ring of London beggars. Mr. Peachum contrives to have sorry, Macbeth arrested. Macbeth escapes, but is betrayed to the police by a prostitute, Suki. So anti-hero gangster, whose name is Mackie, marries Polly Pencham, daughters of a leader of a ring of London beggars. Mr. Peachum contrives to have Macbeth arrested, and Macbeth escapes but is betrayed to the police by a prostitute, Suki Tawdry. Condemned to the gallows, Macbeth is saved by the last minute pardon on Queen Victoria's coronation's day. So Macbeth is saved by by a last minute pardon on Queen Victoria's coronation day. Then his another work, the Caucasian Chalk Circle, a play consisting of a prologue and five scenes by Brecht, first produced in English in 1948 and in German 1949. So this is the German title. The work, based on the German writer Claubert's play, this and itself a translation and adaptation of a Chinese play, One Dynasty. So Brecht's play is set within the context of a dispute over land claimed by two communes in the Soviet Union after World War II. The main action of the play consists of a parable that is performed to celebrate the decision in the dispute. The parable said a feudal insurrection in the 13th century concerns the struggle of two women over the custody of a child. So this is an interesting story, because you see that they struggle to take the custody of a child. The dispute between the governed wife, so there is governed wife and a servant wife, and a servant uh, is the real mother. So the dispute between governed wife, who abandoned the child during the insurrection, and the young servant who saved the child and cared for him, is settled by an eccentric judge. Sorry, here governor is the real mother, okay, and who abandoned her child during the insurrection. And then the young servant, this is the real mother, and the young servant saved the child and cared for him, cared the child as a real mother. Care for him is settled by eccentric judge, who places the child in a chalk circle. So this story is like the Buddha story. I think that in Buddha story also there was two mother fighting for taking the custody of a child, and then the Buddha said that you have to choose, you have to take the child if you can pull him out, or I can cut the piece of the child, one part you can take, and other part the another. But the real mother said that no, I don't want my child, so she can take it. Then Buddha gave the child her his real mother. But there the story is like that the governor's wife abandoned her own child, and this child was brought up or saved by the young servant, and now they are fighting for the custody of the child. So judge places the child in a chalk circle and declares that whichever women can pull him from the circle will be granted custody. When the servant, not wanting to harm the child, she is not the real mother, but she felt for the child. So she not want to harm the child, lets the governor's wife have him. She is awarded with the child and while demonstrating greater love than natural love. So she demonstrate that the greater love than natural mother. So the child went in the custody of the governor, his real mother. But we know that the servant was the actual mother, because she has the real love for the child. So that's all. Thank you for your time. Please subscribe and like my channel if you like it, and so that I can make more videos like that. So thank you.